Good evening, everyone. This is the second of 3 live streams at the Dutch Design Week. Today we will be talking about re-engineering fast fashion, and we have some new guests at the digital table today. In a minute we will start introducing ourselves. Yesterday we already had a really inspiring live stream talking about the new standard 230. This is a new collection I'm showing during the Dutch Design Week this year. Yeah, well, today, change of topic. Like it is going to be part of the future vision, but we're not going to talk about the full collection today, but only highlight 2 of them. One of them will be flatback couture, and the other one will be the build-it-yourself or DIY sneaker. But first, I would like to start with a little round of introduction. Jeroen, could you introduce yourself? You need to unmute yourself.
Better like this? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit of the red monkey, I think, because I have no background in fashion or related things, but I'm working for Chemelot Innovation and Learning Labs, which is a abbreviation for CHILL. CHILL is a center of expertise in the domain of chemistry. And what we try to do is we try to connect students and companies more closely together to better prepare them for their future. We do that by developing certain educational concepts, and I think we will talk about that a little bit later. And we have a number of facilities, laboratories, where Jessica and yourself, Jeffrey, worked on the shoe. So that's, I think, it for now.
Thank you, Jeroen. Giny, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Giny Janmaat, owner, designer, maker at Geestelijke Vormgeving. Well, thank you for inviting me, and nice to meet you all. And looking forward to the discussion.
Very good. Suzy, could you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Suzy Mattocks. I'm a product developer, designer, and I work for the UK High Street. So I've worked for various different brands, and I've been living in and out of Asia for the last 7 years, working in Bangladesh and China. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Suzy. And Jessica, could you introduce yourself again?
Yes, I'm Jessica. I'm a designer in Zertogenbosch in the Netherlands, and I'm a material designer to make some new materials and products out of plastic waste. I'm here today because Jeffrey and I did a project together to make a circular sneaker. Yeah, and that's it for now.
Okay, and then we have Kyle at the table as well. He's going to moderate a chat on YouTube. So if you have any questions, you can post them there, and then we will try to bring them into this live stream. Well, and then it's time to introduce myself again. My name is Jeffrey. I am a re-engineer at Studio Jeffrey Heiligers. And well, today's episode is going to be about re-engineering fast fashion. 2 of the products or concepts that I designed for the Dutch Design Week are related to this topic. And I've tried to, well, re-engineer around the problematics of these products. One of them is flatback couture. We already discussed this briefly yesterday. Flatback couture is, well, already it says in the name, it's a flatback fashion you can order to your house. Yesterday we took the example of a jeans. The jeans will not be ready-made for you. It will just be sent to you in a flatback and taken apart. So it will all be separate pieces, and there is a instruction manual that will help you out to put these pieces together. So the idea behind this is to make the consumer part of the making process or involved in the production process. That was a very brief introduction. We'll go into detail later. And the second project that I've been working on was in collaboration with Jessica. And we had the idea to do something with a sneaker. We called it, the working title was the Build It Yourself sneaker. And what we tried to do there was to create a sneaker that is not assembled by using glue or stitching, but well, to say it very easily, it's like Lego blocks built on top of each other and supported by the shoelaces. And this we did it like this because we wanted to make it really easy to recycle the shoe when a part breaks, and also really easy to add a new part to the shoe when, for example, the sole or the laces break. And Jeroen, he is part of Chill, and yeah, a massive thank you, because they helped us to 3D print the first the proof of concept.
Yep.
And we just photographed it, and it looked really amazing. So we're super happy. What do you think about the idea of a sneaker that you can take completely apart, make it easy to recycle, etc.?
It's funny you say that, because we've been working with a number of companies, also in waste disposal and stuff like that. And what you see is that the thought of assembling a product yourself is getting more and more popular. And I think it's a real good thing, because, and this is not me talking from a Chill standpoint, but from my personal consumer standpoint. I think for the world nowadays, there is a shortage of resources, getting a bigger problem every day. And to make something durable, and I think this shoe is by the way it's set up, is durable. I think it fits the time frame very well.
And of course, we asked Chill the question to produce something that didn't really exist yet. How do you feel about that? Because it was a product that still needed to be designed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it fits. It fits Chill very well, I think. Chill is more or less an experimental environment as well, and basically Chill is there because in the DNA we try to do things differently. I mean, Chill is there because that what existed didn't function very good. So everything we try to do is based on another perspective, and that goes for the concepts, but of course it goes for the products as well. So yeah, I think it fits very well.
Okay, and then like just thinking about the projects. So we mentioned Flatpack Couture and the DIY sneaker. Suzy, could you maybe say something about one of the projects and what your feeling is about these do-it-yourself structure?
Yeah, I like the concept a lot, and I think it's really going to be a big trend next year for the consumer to have more involvement with this process, definitely. The pros of it, yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think the customer will understand the making of a product and actually what goes into it. And it's just genuinely, it's fun. And with Corona as well, it's something you can do at home. So it's creating a new hobby. The cons of it, obviously, I've worked out in China and wherever, and, you know, it creates a lot of jobs. So I like the idea of that part, but if it was going to be on a mass level, then, I mean, we spoke about this before, Jeffrey, you know, that would be the only concern, but I think it's a brilliant idea. I like the idea of the sneaker as well, because it's all recyclable. Sorry, it's all recyclable, and I think it's great to educate the customer on more about sustainability as well, and they'll learn a lot from that. Yeah, so I think it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're mentioning the thing about like if this would be the new way of putting fashion into the world, that people have to make it themselves. It will be a massive issue for for like Bangladesh, for example, or China.
Yeah.
And it's something that also we as makers, I think, should still take in consideration, that ending the whole fast fashion industry might not be the solution, but of course there needs to be a change.
I think it's about balance, yeah. I think it's about balance, and there definitely is an imbalance, but it's about, you know, creating something that's in harmony with everyone and it's better for the environment. So, you know, I do think this is great for a consumer point of view to have. It sounds really fun as well, just to be a part of the process.
Yeah, and how do you think that there would be a possibility to have the people in Bangladesh involved in such project?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely could be, but I mean, would it? I mean, they would probably be a part of the cutting of it, and then you'd send it in the posting. But then, what would be the difference with the cutting to the making from an environmental point of you know? I don't know. I think it would be looking at ways where you could improve their life rather than the actual product itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to have the connecting between like the fashion, like the parts that you can make by yourself, and the maker of all these parts. So
Yeah.
like the people in Bangladesh, that you really see which people can make your clothes, or yeah, like that it's really connected to each other. I think that's really important, that people have to see what they're wearing, where they come from, which kind of people they make it for them. Yeah, I think that's really important, and also help for the transpiration for like to see everything together.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is important for people to know where their clothes are from and the whole process of it. And also, I think it's great to see, you know, I'm not sure how technical this flat packing will go. There'll probably be different levels of it, but you know, it definitely is a skill to make clothes. And I think somewhere along the lines, maybe we've forgotten about the skill of making clothes, and it's become more about you know, the consumption. So I do think it would be really interesting to see customers' points of view while making their clothes, to understand more that would they value it more. That's what, you know, would that come into it? Probably, yeah, they'd probably take more appreciation of the product.
Yeah, I think that was also one of the things in the philosophy to design the project, was to create an emotional connection.
Yeah.
Because if you make it yourself, you probably won't get rid of it that fast.
Yeah, you'd be very proud of it, and you probably show it to all your family, friends, or whatever, and be like, "I've just made this."
Yeah, exactly.
I can ask the stupid questions today. So is there, I'm not aware of it, but is there like a trend in this, in consumer behavior, especially with regard to fashion? Is there a trend, and how big is it?
I think there's going to be more of a trend, not necessarily in the flat pack nature, but more of an involvement and interaction, especially with more social media and people being on computers more, you know, everything like that. There is going to be more of an interaction now, and people want more of a personal experience. You know, if you look at the likes of Corona with Etsy and things like that, crafting was probably one of the biggest things with coronavirus. So, you know, there are things that have come out of coronavirus that have changed the way that people are thinking, and you know, there's only so much Netflix you can watch, and, and that's I think it's better to pass your time doing a hobby. So I think there could be something really in it. I'm not sure about the longevity of it, but maybe, you know, this would be the starting point of flat pack culture, but you could actually bring it to the next level and maybe roll it out a different way. So it's, you know, there's different levels of it in terms of technicability. So you could also learn whilst you're doing it. I don't know, just something that kind of keeps it going more.
Yeah.
And Giny, we haven't really heard from you yet. I'm also really curious what you think about the about flat pack couture, because you're also a textile designer and you also make clothes yourself from dead stock and leftover fabrics. How do you feel about the concept?
Yes, I agree with some parts which Suzanne already said. I think it's good for everyone to experience what it takes to make your clothing. I think most people are not aware how many times it consumes to make a good product. And also you were talking about connection with the garment and or apparel. I don't know the correct English word. And I think this connection is gone. And if people make it themselves, like somebody of you already said, you have the connection with the product, but also the insight, but how much time it takes and what skills it takes to make them. And I guess not everybody will, I think a lot of people will like it, especially in times like these when you are more at home, to make an item yourself, and you will discover it's not always that easy. Depends on what you're going to pick, a trouser or a shirt. It's quite different. But then to realize the effort it takes, and also be aware that if you buy something for 5 or 10 euros, a trouser for 10 euros, you might think, oh, it took me a whole day to make it, maybe even longer. How, what's happening that I can buy it for 10 euros? And I think that would be a very interesting point, starting point to talk about fashion and how we are dealing with it.
Yeah, I think that was also part of the inspiration in Flatback Couture, is that you can buy a higher quality garment for a lower price. But then the downside for some people of it is that you need to put it together yourself. Because yeah, I think it's nice that you're mentioning this, that we really forgot how much time and effort and how many skills it takes to make a simple garment. It's really complicated. It's like, it is kind of hardcore engineering to put a piece of clothing together. Yeah, so sorry, I'm blank.
Okay.
No,
Well,
but it is really, like, I find it really yeah, it's part of education as well. We really need to maybe make that more transparent, the making process, and show people how much time it takes to make something. I think that Flatback Couture could contribute to that, especially in these times that we already discussed. And yeah, we had a little discussion already this afternoon in a live stream from Jessica, also about the textile of the future. So I'm curious, in connection to that, Jessica, how you feel about this concept.
The conversation today before was like to make textile in a future way, but it was more like not really like textile for fashion, but because it's like textile from plastic. And I think if you make clothes or other fashion things out of plastic, you really get like some really small pieces if you wash it or that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's really, yeah, microplastics. Yeah, so I'm not really prefer to put this kind of textile into fashion. I think it's more interesting if you can change into a carpet of this kind of stuff, that you don't really have to wash it all the times, or that you use it in different ways. But I think, like, on the other side, if you think about textiles in a future way, if you recycled, for example, from textile to textile, that will be really interesting. We also talk about that, about how can you make a yarn to a yarn, for example. At the moment, I think that is not really possible, but it will be really nice in the future to think in this kind of solutions. And maybe Giny or Susan, do you already see this kind of things in the fashion world?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one supplier now in Bangladesh that actually goes to collect all the old yarn from all the factories, you know, the left off cut off points, and they've actually built a business now on.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah, it's really good. There's only certain colours you can get, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that I can see that will be really successful in the future. They're working on that now, so yeah, I think that could be good.
And also in the Netherlands, there is a company. I forgot the name. It's also a brand, and they use a lot of jeans, and they old jeans, and they make new yarn of it, and it becomes sweaters or towels, all kind of fabrics they make.
There's another one as well called Waste to Wear.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah,
to work with them. They're brilliant as well, and they use obviously recycled bottles. Yeah, so I do think that there is change happening, and I am interested to see what new inventions will keep coming up. So yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't like this 2 years ago. So yeah, I think it's exciting.
And do you think that design and like the concepts that, for example, now I'm bringing to the table could contribute in this mindset change of people to make them more part of the industry in a way?
I think it would be interesting if on your flat pack program you could ask them how much they would spend for that product at the end of it. If they could calculate the hours they put into it, and maybe you could do some sort of online social media. How long did it take you to make this product, and what was the hours that they were working for? I think that could be quite a cool thing as well, that they could learn. It would challenge them to realize that how much they were getting paid per hour to make those trousers as well. So yeah, I think there is definitely a way that you could bring this in, but you just have to monitor it very carefully. With if it did become to a sort of a mass production, you'd have to keep an eye on it, because anything that becomes bigger in production, that's when you lose. You'd have to make sure that it's a very transparent blockchain as such. Do you know what I mean? So it would be that the whole thing was sustainable. But I think definitely this could be something really exciting, and could work in the future. Well, now I think it could be something that you should definitely push to do.
Yeah, I like the idea that you just mentioned, to test this and see what kind of value people will add to the to this process. It's maybe a new project.
Also try and target a certain age range. Probably the ones that are most likely to get fast fashion. Teens to maybe I'm judging this a little bit, but a younger age range. So I would nail that product to be that would fit into that age range. To because I would probably stay away from children's clothes or something, because just for safety reasons. Really, there's a lot of testing that goes into that. But definitely adults, and try and nail that consumer that you think are probably the most popular, as in would buy fast fashion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand the part you say. Stay away from children clothing. But what do you mean?
I just think you could be, depending on what you're doing. Is there going to be buttons on there? Is there?
Oh, that's
I'm just talking about health and safety. You just don't want to open something up. I think that would have to be something that would be, a bit more considered. I mean, I don't know. When I've worked with children's wear, it's quite strict. Yeah. But I think if you could, and how likely? I don't know. I mean, fast fashion is something that I was probably very into when I was younger, in my 20s, early 20s. So I don't know. I think that it could be good for that age range.
Okay.
And I'm curious, Jeroen, because we've been talking about innovation, and the things that can be done sound quite technical. How could this relate to Chill? Would that be something that Chill could facilitate? Because there's also 3D printing happening and stuff in fashion at the moment. So I'm just curious.
I'm not quite sure, to be honest. First of all, the discussion for me is very interesting because I was thinking to be involved in what, I mean, this society is so based on just throw it out when you are done, and to get real involvement in the products, to appreciate all the efforts again. I think this concept fits the bill completely. We started gardening, and it's a lot more work than going to the supermarket, but the food is just more rewarding and better. I think it's the same, basically the same principle. For chill, I think we could do, of course, we could contribute. The only thing is that when you're talking real production in a way, then I think our facilities at the moment are just too small. But to develop and to experiment, I think that would fit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also Jessica, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, Jeroen, how do you see the role as a designer in this kind of sustainable way?
Oh well, I think it has been talked about yesterday, and I think we touched a little bit upon it right now. We're talking reverse designing. You want to create something in such a way that you know in the end how to break it down, reuse it, whatever you're going to do. And I think that we had this project with Suez. I don't know if that's a familiar name to you all, but they take the trash out for you. And they told me they are working on recycling cycluses, and they had this example of the tomato ketchup bottle, and they said we can recycle everything, but there's this little thing on the top, the little rubber thing, and that spoils it all because they didn't think how to disconnect it. So we can't do anything about it. And I think designing in the future should be more and more, and this, for me with clothing it's the same. Designing in the future is all about how to reuse, how to disintegrate stuff, or even better, grow like the shoe with your needs.
Yeah, that was a good question, Jessica. I'm also curious how Suzy feels about that.
Yeah, I think it's really important for designers. I think it will be a great challenge to them because I also feel like maybe some designers that I've worked with within fast fashion are not as challenged as they could be because obviously it's very price competitive. But I do think if you've got that challenge to think about reusing it again, then yeah, I think that would be, I think a design is very important for that as well.
Yeah, and also we were talking about how starting with the end of life in the design process could contribute to this. To this. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that in the design industry, in the fast fashion design industry?
I think it's very important. But you know, the fast fashion industry is fast. You know, if we look at now, it can be 8 weeks on a production. You know, I think certain retailers are working 8 weeks from catwalk to store. So it's a lot of pressure for a designer they can only get, they've got very short time days anyway, as in they're under a lot of pressure. So I think it would be a challenge. I feel like that would be something you'd have to start off and grow it slowly. But I think that, I'm not sure to be honest. I think it could work, but it's just the doing of it is the hard part because, you know, it is a very pressurized job. It's not something where it's a slow movement. It's very fast.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a lot of education that they'd have to go through, a lot of designers to understand. I mean, sustainability within fashion as well. As in on the high street or fast fashion, it's it is becoming more and more, but there's still a lot of, you know, understanding, and it's how you can take something from a small line and make it into something that's mass. It's always going to be a challenge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think it could work, but it's not there yet. And I think that there'd have to be training. You'd have to know every bit of the fabric, the stitching, and, you know, some designers don't know about the fabric and whether it can be recycled or, you know, yeah.
And just out of curiosity, do you think that this is like the COVID times now, because the production, I think, slowed down quite a lot, also in fast fashion? Do you think that this would be a good time to really try and look at it to start making change?
Yeah, a lot of change has happened with Corona. You know, in terms of sampling, obviously sampling it's even before it gets to a store. You know, you have to do a lot of sampling with fits and everything. You know, that's all gone now 3D. No one's traveling anymore. I do think there will be changes there that will have a massive impact on the environment. You know, sampling alone it's a lot. You know, I can do 13 samples for one piece, and I can do that 6 times before it's even got to the store. So I do think with the likes of technology improving as well, there are changes, but in terms of, you know, having a product that's completely 100% recyclable, and the designer, I think there is room for designers to do that, and I think it will be amazing, but I just don't think it's there yet. And I think in the future, that would have to be, there are now, I would say, in fast fashion, there's sustainability departments, you know, it's becoming a much bigger thing. So I hope that in 2030, then, yeah, I think that it would be very valuable for designers to move along with it and know that they can do 100% product recycle and, you know it's completely circular as such, yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that like change is happening.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I think there is a lot to do for designers, but I think designers are not the only one who can change this. I think there has to be from 3-4 different ways where it has to change, to use more sustainable materials, and also to have more respect for the people who are making it. And then with respect for people who are making, I mean a fair wage for the people who are making it. And I think it should be something like like smoking. You know, you're still allowed to buy cigarettes, but on the package of a cigarette, it says it's bad for your health. With clothing, you can also, from this, when there are a lot of plastic, like polyester and stuff like that in your clothing, you can have the labels on, this is not recyclable, and this is bad for when you wash it, you have to say it in another way, for the environment or something, to be aware of it. And also, because I don't know the big industry of fashion, I've never worked in it, and like in tobacco or liquids, I think there could be a very big lobby and very big interests in Asia and also in the western part of the world, that there also should be some regulations from governments, some standards which really say, well, we don't want this anymore. And it will be very hard, and I don't think we will manage to do this in 2030, but we could start with it. And to so from different parts, people should be aware, and it's with regulations from the government, but also awareness.
Yeah,
Like I said in the label.
I think this was something that came up also in the conversation yesterday, and as Giny was just saying, there's just been a question in the YouTube chat. Margarita, asked, would rethinking fast fashion to use more organic textiles and reducing the reliance on synthetics actually be viable? And being viable, would it have a negative or a positive impact on our environment? I'm just putting the question out there. I'm not sure myself.
I mean, in terms of more organic, of course, it's better for organic cotton is better for workers. You know, there's less chemicals around it. It's better for the environment. But organic, they still use a lot of water. So there still is a massive problem. Even recycled cotton, it uses a lot of water.
But I think it's also from the cotton where you grow the cotton. Like in Egypt, there's for centuries of years cotton is grown, and also to let it grow more in a more natural way. Now we need so much cotton because we want so much garment. Like today I heard that for average people are buying 10 t-shirts a year, average. I don't understand why you need that much t-shirts, and maybe we need that much, I don't know, because the quality is so bad. You know, washing it a few times and there are holes and stuff like. Grow better cotton in a place where which is all right for cotton, and make shirts which last longer. And I think the whole cycle to change it is very important to consume less. And then I don't mean that people have to become unemployed, but to make better quality with more attention, to be more in a balance, and you don't have to grow that much cotton.
But do you think it is really just down to the quality, or do you think it's down to fashion itself? Because, you know, I don't think it's necessarily that person that's buying those 10 t-shirts is down to the fact that the quality's bad. Maybe they want 10 different colours, and maybe they decided to go for a lilac in spring, and then they've worked way to burgundy in the winter. You know, I just think that trend now is very fast. You know, there's a lot that's changed. I mean, I used to work in seasons and now I work weekly. You know, we have different drops. So in terms of just it being about, I mean, a basic t-shirt, I don't think it's just down to the quality. I think it's down to our, you know, what we want to do with that t-shirt. Now, I've spoke to people in the past and they'll buy cheap t-shirts, go on holiday, leave them there just because they don't want to put them back in their suitcase and come back. So it's all about ease. It's all about trend. Most of the time, I don't think that the average fast fashion consumer will actually care about quality.
Yeah, but that's
sad to say.
Yeah, but then I think we are back at the beginning of our discussion, which was that we don't realize how much effort it takes to make something. And it's very cheap, and somebody in this big line from maker to consumer, somebody has to pay for it, because it can't be that cheap. You know, somebody is not earning a good wage in this line. I don't know, I've been a lot in Asia, but never in those fabrics you can't get in just as a consumer. But I think our mindset should change, and to go for quality and to go for respect. And I think also this term of fast fashion, I don't know if we are always talking about the same item, because for me now fast fashion, there's so much attention for it in a negative way, like fast fashion is cinnamon, or I don't know the synonym for pollution, for bad wages, and stuff like that. So I don't know if you mean also, this is the view I've got when I'm talking about fast fashion.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it definitely is that as well, what you've just said. But also, when I say fast fashion, I mean fashion that's delivered fast. You know, it's mass produced. Yeah. So, but there are those other things that you said as well about it being bad for the environment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we had now, this is our in total the third live stream that I had with Jessica, where we're talking about all these issues, and that basically the result is always that we need to slow down, we need to produce less, we need to produce something of higher quality, and maybe we should, instead of 20 colors, only make 8 colors. I think what is really interesting, Giny, and we didn't really talk about that yet, but you kind of work this way. You just work with the materials that you get, which I think is super interesting, and you turn them into really high quality garments. Can you tell us a bit more about this and how that this could contribute to creating awareness of the quality of a garment?
Yes, well, I don't know about how this can contribute. I think it only contributes when people recognize their own items which they bring to me, and I make something differently of it, and then they recognize it, and then they say, oh, this was my blouse or my whatever. And so then it makes really a difference. The most of the items I make, I sell them, but I see that the consumers who want to buy it is still a small group. It's a small group of people who is very conscious about it, and they really want to make a change, and they like this kind of clothing, and they also like the story behind those clothes. And maybe that could, now when I'm talking about, maybe that could contribute, because if an article has a story, where it comes from, how it's made, then it's getting a little, you give the item a soul, and that's what people can connect with it. So that makes it differently. And for me, well, it's my job, but it's also because I love my job very much. And when I'm working with it, it's really my passion into the fabric, and you know, my soul is also in it. And I find more and more, I find people who really like it and hear about the story and connect with the items. But I think the group is still very small, and also it's not as cheap as the big fashion industry like Zara, Hennes and Mauritz, or whatever kind of labels. So people say, oh, why does this have to be this expensive? It's, you know, it's secondhand fabric, but it's the labor which takes so much time, and that's yeah, people have to understand it, that it's not, you cannot make anything in 5 minutes or something. It takes half a day or something to make a shirt.
So Giny, what sort of suggestions would you have? I think you've identified that there's 2 different markets, that there's one that is the, I want a €5 t-shirt, and there's the, I'm willing to recycle. They're conscious about what they're having made for them. What would you suggest would be a way to make the market more equal in these between the 2 groups?
Oh, I think it will be very hard to do. I've been thinking about it, and you know, also selling my clothes on markets, and I see how people react and how differently and how how difficult it is sometimes to explain to people why it is like this. I think we need also more government regulations about it, or worldwide, not just in the Netherlands because we're too small, worldwide, and to be aware of the problem we are already causing. You have, I think we have a big group of people, especially in Asia, who earn not enough money for the work they're doing. The children can't go to school. There's not a good health. They're not have enough money to go to a doctor or whatever. And technology is also changing. Maybe, there are already a lot of robots in the fashion industry. We don't use them that much because labor in Asia is still cheaper than using this robot. But I think one day it will change. And if we start in Europe making our own clothing with robots, then everybody in Asia, they won't have jobs anymore. And you have a big group of people who are not educated, who are poor. The difference between poor and rich in the world will be bigger. I'm trying to tell this story. I think it's a very big problem, and I can't say it in just 5 or 10 sentences. But I think it really needs a lot more attention from governments, from worldwide. Well, this is a very, very big issue for this kind of question, I know. But it really, it touches me, and I'm really worried about it. I think it's going to be an even bigger problem if we don't change this.
Yeah.
I think what is also it keeps coming back in all the conversations is that that governments should really step up their game and start doing something about this. And I'm actually really happy that we can have these out in the open conversations about it. Jeroen, maybe it's not really completely your topic, the fast fashion, but I'm also really curious how you feel about what has been said, and what do you think?
Well, I understand it completely. It brought up a question for me personally, because Suzanne talked about the designers, and I hear Giny talking about regulations, stuff like that. We talked about consumers, for example. And perhaps that's a question for you, Jeffrey, and for Jessica. My hopes are always by the young people, the people who need to be educated, the people who are standing, have made a career choice and are trying to follow it. So what I am wondering is, in your line of education, is this an item? Is this something that's brought up? Is this only based on, let's say, technical knowledge, or are there other competent? I mean, every designer is part of an ecosystem which is much bigger than himself. I mean, do they learn how to function in ecosystems like that? Because I think you need a certain attitude and a certain vision, and the earlier it starts, the better. So for me, the place where you start to study would be a good starting point for that. But I'm just wondering how that world is, because I have no idea.
There was actually just a question for you, similar to what you've answered, Jeroen. Paolo has asked how important you think the study of circular economy and circular fashion as an amateur creative is, or what your importance is, how important you feel that is.
Vital.
Yeah.
I can be very clear about it. It's if we don't do it, the problems will become much longer. I see it as a one of the pillars under our future. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really important to have this kind of study on the academies, or what kind of school you follow. It's like you really have to see what kind of possibilities there already are, and what kind of you have to make out of this as your job. Mm-hmm. And at the art academy where I was studying, there was not really lessons about circular thinking or this kind of stuff. You have workshops, of course, but not really like every week a kind of lesson about circular thinking. And I think that will be really interesting to put that in this kind of places, because if you are young, you really have to think about what you want to do in this world and what you want to change. And I think it's the responsibility from everyone. I think it will be really interesting to put this also on the academies to learn about what can you do in this kind of topic.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jessica on this, because also for me, it was not part of my education. And I think it's a shame, because we have a very important role to fulfill as designers, and we need to be aware of what we put into this world. So yeah, that really, really needs to change, in my opinion. And then to fire the question back at you, Jeroen, actually, because you are you're working in a center of innovation, and you're dealing with lots of young people. And I'm actually curious if you are noticing a change in their how they're perceiving this world, and if they really want to contribute to making this positive change.
Yeah, in general, I think yes. Of course, there's always a group that's just career oriented, and it doesn't matter how. But in general, I would say there are more and more students that really want to contribute to a better world. You see it a lot on the female side, by the way. And I think you also need a certain mentality, and for me personally, we live in a very blue environment, blue society, by which I mean it's all processed, budget, timeline based, and I'm not saying that's not useful, but there is another world as well, and that's a world where you work more organic. I think you can't really innovate from a plan. I just don't believe in it, because you start to follow a plan and there is something preset in a plan, and I think innovation should have an open end. It's scary for the students, I see that. On the other hand, if you offer them a safe environment in which they can experiment, and learning is all about making mistakes. So you need to offer an environment where you can make those mistakes, you're allowed to make those mistakes, and then stand up and go for the next step. And I think if you can offer things like that, and I'm more or less proud to say that we have that at Chill. I think you will see a generation that's changing from following to shaping, and I think that's what we need.
Yeah, and true, because me and Jessica, we were allowed to be part of one of those processes in Chill. It's still ongoing, and it's super interesting, and it's really nice to see how you guys are putting all this time and effort in young people with an innovation, trying to bring this onto the market. So and I think it's super important, and keep doing what you're doing. I think it's super nice. No, but I think we shouldn't underestimate those places that we need this to be able to create the change that we're trying to aim for, and you're facilitating that, which is amazing. It's really good. So I'm curious, Kyle, are there any more questions in the YouTube chat?
Sorry, I just asked that about 30 seconds ago. If you can give me a few minutes.
Okay, that's okay, because I see that we're already almost an hour in. The time is going fast again. What I find interesting, to sum it up a little bit, is that we've been talking about education and how that could contribute, because, well, me and Jessica can both agree that it's kind of the educational system is lacking in this information, and also asking about it towards the designers they put into this world. Plus governmental steps that need to be taken.
Yes.
For me, I think what would be super interesting is also that governments look more into design. I think it would be super interesting to connect a designer to someone in the government to also have an open view, do something new, do something different that they would never try to do themselves. And yeah, just curious, any last thoughts that you want to say in this conversation, Suzy?
No, I just agree with all the points about, I definitely think there is a responsibility that we all need to take as well. And also 100% that governments need to have more accountability through it. And also, like, back to education. I mean, when I was studying at university, it wasn't even a part of the syllabus about recycling. Like, there was nothing about sustainability. It just wasn't a part of the creation process. We never thought what happens next. So I do think that we need to understand that there is a waste product from everything. And, you know, I think to be a successful designer in the future, that would be the challenge to yourself, to be able to recycle that product 100%. So yeah, I agree with the points that you said.
Giny, any last thoughts?
Yes, I think it would be een uitdaging.
Challenge.
English? Yeah, it would be a challenge. Also for designers to design and to make the emotional connection for the user with the product. That could be an interesting topic to think about.
Yeah, good. It was something that was mentioned yesterday as well, and I completely agree. Jeroen, any last thoughts?
Yeah, perhaps the point of multidisciplinarity. I think these are topics that are so big and so important and so full of impact that with a lot of consequences as well, that it's almost impossible to have them solved with only one discipline. I think you need a multi-angled view to solutions. So my suggestion would be leave the room, get out and meet people from other disciplines and exchange ideas, stuff like that. I think that would be very fruitful.
And that's also really nice to hear, because that was basically the rough idea behind those live streams that me and Jessica have been hosting, to open up this conversation and also to talk with people from all different backgrounds to get all this knowledge onto the table and see how we can combine this and come up with some interesting new ideas. Jessica, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, Jeroen picked mine, so I was like, really have to a lot of this kind of conversation. So really talk to people. Like for now, just 1 hour we talk with some people, and it's really like inspiring already. And I think that's really important. And also, like in this time, you really also can connect to each other, to just go for 1 hour behind your laptop and just have a conversation about this kind of topics. And I think that's really important, because it's always get new ideas. And I think with all these people doing it together, then you get it much more earlier than if everybody do this alone on his own way.
I just have, sorry to interrupt. I just have
it's okay.
quick final questions. One from Dan, that should we be educating both the consumer and the future designer? And another from Paolo, just for Jeffrey specifically. How do you see the process of designing a product as do you see the process of designing a product as a tool to connect people in this new intimacy?
To answer the last question, yes, definitely. I think we can have we will go into the live chat after this. We can have a discussion about that. That would be super interesting. And the first question, I think we are, you were mentioning the designer and the consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we also should not forget the producer, because I think it needs to be a shared responsibility, something we discussed yesterday, and it should be from all sides, being transparent and open and educating each other on what we need from each other to get this done correctly.
Great.
All right, well, it's already 6 o'clock. It went really fast. It was super inspiring again. I really enjoy these talks. We should do this a lot more, I think. And I would really like to thank Giny, Suzy, Kyle, and Jeroen to be here. And of course, Jessica, she's next to me. And we will be going to the Dutch Design Week website. It's ddw.nl. And if you type in Jeffrey Heiligers, you can find my personal page, and then we can keep chatting in the live chat. And I'm happy to answer your questions there. And then I'll see you again on Wednesday when there is already my last live stream, which is called Re-engineering Materials and Waste. And we have some interesting guests joining us there as well. So thank you very much, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you also. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.